So this is just a sort of a fun poem that I like to read. Um, it deals with Mark, and a couple things about this. There's in a relationship, there's always the person that calls and doesn't call, and so this is about that. I'm the person who calls. I'm also my mother, who, when we were 10 minutes late after curfew, she was in her bathrobe and curlers down and up and down the street waiting for the police car. Neurotic, like Ophelia, like roaming the neighborhood. That's me. Yeah. And of course, Mark never calls. And so that's kind of what this poem is about, because, dysfunctional relationships, or I should say, neuroses and stuff doesn't only belong to heterosexual relationships. A relationship is a relationship. And what's really funny is this is one of Bethel's favorite poems, which surprised me because I thought it was a gay poem. And I have the lumberjacks and Bethel going, "Read Killing Mark," which is the name of this poem. So I'm like, it surprised me because, in a way, really, what poetry does and what art does is to bridge those fundamental core set of human emotions that make us all, that we all share, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter what kind of relationship you're in. Someone calls and someone doesn't call. So this is called Killing Mark, and it's called, it is a love poem despite the title. His plane went down over Los Angeles last week, again. Or was it Long Island? Boxer shorts, hair gel, his toothbrush washed up on the shore at New Haven, but his body never recovered, I feared. Monday, he cut off his leg chainsawing, bled to death slowly while I was shopping for a new lamp. Never heard my messages on his cell phone. "Where are you? Call me." I told him to be careful. He never listens. Tonight, 15 minutes late, I'm sure he's hit on Route 26. But maybe he survived. Someone from the hospital will call me, give me his room number. I'll bring his pajamas, some magazines. 5:25, still no phone call. Voicemail full. I turn on the news, wait for the report. Flashes of moose blood, his car mangled as I buzz around the bedroom, dusting the furniture and sorting the sock drawer again. Did someone knock? I'm expecting the sheriff by 6 o'clock. "Mr. Blanco," I'm afraid he'll say, hand me a Ziploc with his wallet and sunglasses, wristwatch. I'll invite the officer in, make some coffee. 6:25, I'll have to call his mom, explain, arrange to fly the body back home. Do I have enough garbage bags for his clothes? I should keep his ties, but his shoes? Order flowers, roses, white or red. By 7:30, I'm taking mental notes for his eulogy. Suddenly adoring all I've hated, 10 years worth of nose hairs in the sink, of lost car keys, of chewing gum too loud and hogging bed sheets. When Joey, our dog, yowls, ears to the sound of footsteps up to the drive, and darts to the doorway, I follow with a scowl. Where the hell were you? You couldn't call, could you? Translation, I die each time I kill you. So, I guess, I don't know, the greatest gift of the inauguration, I guess, in some ways was that I was home all along, that home was in my backyard, meaning America. I just never really sort of thought about it or acknowledged that. And thinking about how that narrative that I thought I wasn't a part of is exactly what the American narrative is. The question of home is the American narrative. And it's my story as a little chubby gay kid from Miami, my mother's story, a woman who grew up in a dirt floor home in Cuba, sitting steps away from the president. All our stories have been part of that narrative. Has that narrative been acknowledged throughout time? No, of course not. But one of the reasons that in that moment was so special was not because not because it was me, but the idea of that narrative was finally being sort of acknowledged in such a public and amazing way and through poetry. And not just my narrative, but all sort of the narratives of all those people that are sort of represented directly or indirectly. So it was really sort of the greatest gift of the inauguration. That and meeting Beyonce, of course, well, and the president, of course. We forget that. And the other sort of gift was to realize that in some ways, this is a baby of a country, and that America is a work in progress. And we all get very impatient in that we think in our lifetime things have to be set and perfect in the ways that we want them or the ways we're working towards. And the reality is, if we take the example of the cathedral builders in the Renaissance, that it's really not like that. It's about you contribute, you try to add to that work in progress, to that narrative. You add a sentence, you add a paragraph, you add a chapter, you add a whole volume if you need to. But the idea that we get to participate in that narrative and that we don't always agree in that narrative, and that narrative sometimes takes 4 steps forward and 3 steps back. But that's part of the process that we have to embrace, and not only embrace, but we have to sort of assert a responsibility over and acknowledge that that's part of the beauty of this country, right, is the idea that the narrative evolves. And God knows we're in a very evolving narrative phase right now in this election year. There's a whole lot of narrative going on. So, and it's really, one of the greatest things one of the wonderful things when Obama spoke in Cuba that I just caught my ear really very, very powerfully was when he was showing the example of who was running for president, or who was running to be, what do you call that, to be nominated in the United States. He was like, we have a Democratic Socialist, we have a woman, we have Trump, and so he's showing the span of the insanity and how we can tolerate all that, we can sort of accommodate all that in some ways, and as an example of we need to believe that fundamentally, we need to believe that we're all involved in that narrative in some ways. Anyway, I'd like to share that with you. I forgot to read you a main poem. Do we have time to read a main poem? Okay, let me dig it up, because this is in some ways said that all art is in some ways an attempt to reach paradise, right? To reach wholeness and completion, whether that's a physical place or a figurative place. So this poem is having just a little fun with that sort of that travel bug, as I call it, in that sense of us falling in love with places. And every place is great for about 2 days, right, or 3 days, especially if you don't know the language. And then you're not realizing they're just talking about getting milk on the way home. It's, oh, isn't that beautiful? I love Italian. So, but the reality is just people living their lives, right? So anyway, this poem is having a little fun with that, or it's an exaggerated sort of spoofy kind of poem about that, and I think it's self-explanatory. But yeah. Oh, I've borrowed language from those brochures where every place is fabulous, right? So the real sort of blank, mundane lines here are not mine. They're from the brochure. And I'll try to do my best to do a Cuban Norwegian accent or something like that. We're not going to Malta because the winds are too strong, our captain announces, his voice like an oracle coming through the loudspeakers in every lounge and hall, as if the ship itself were speaking. We're not going to Malta, an enchanting island country 50 miles from Sicily, according to the brochure of the tour we're not taking. But what if we did go to Malta? What if, as we were escorted on foot through the walled, silent city of Medea, the walls begin speaking to me? And after we stop a few minutes to admire the impressive architecture, I feel Malta could be the place for me. What if, as we stroll the bastions and admire the panoramic harbor and stunning countryside, I dream of buying a little Maltese farm, raising Maltese horses in the green Maltese hills? What if, after we see the cathedral in Mosta saved by a miracle, I believe that Malta itself is a miracle? And before I'm transported back to the pier with a complimentary beverage, I'm struck with Malta fever. discover I'm very Maltese indeed, and decide I must return to Malta, learn to speak Maltese with an English or Spanish accent, work as a Maltese professor of English at the University of Malta, and teach a course on the Maltese falcon. Or what if, when we stop at a factory to shop for famous Maltese ware, I discover that making Maltese crosses is my true passion? Yes, I'd get a Maltese cat and a Maltese dog, make Maltese friends, drink malted milk, join the Knights of Malta, and be happy for the rest of my Maltesian life. But we're not going to Malta. Malta is drifting past us, or we are drifting past it, an amorphous hump of green and brown bobbing in the portholes with the horizon, as the ship heaves over whitecaps, wisping into rainbows for just a moment, then dissolving back into the sea. Looking for the Golf Motel, Marco Island, Florida. There should be nothing here I don't remember. The Golf Motel with mermaid lampposts and ship's wheel in the lobby should still be rising out of the sand like a cake decoration. My brother and I should still be pretending we don't know our parents, embarrassing us as they roll the luggage cart past the front desk, loaded with our scruffy suitcases, 24 loaves of Cuban bread, brown bags bulging with enough mangoes to last the entire week, our espresso pot, the pressure cooker, and a pork roast reeking garlic through the marble lobby. All because we can't afford to eat out, mijo. Not even on vacation. Only 2 hours from our home in Miami, but far enough away to be thrilled by the wider sands on the west coast of Florida, where I should still be, for the first time, watching the sun set instead of rise over the ocean. There should be nothing here I don't remember. My mother should still be in the kitchenette of the Golf Motel, her daisy sandals from Kmart squeaking across the linoleum, still gorgeous in her teal swimsuit and amber earrings, stirring a pot of arroz con pollo, adding sprinkles of onion powder and dollops of tomato sauce. My father should still be in a terry cloth jacket, smoking, clinking a glass of amber whiskey in the sunset at the Golf Motel, watching us dive into the pool, 2 sons he'll never see grow into men who will be proud of him. There should be nothing here I don't remember. My brother and I should still be playing parcheesi. My father should still be alive, slow dancing with my mother on the sliding glass balcony of the Golf Motel. No music, only the waves keeping time. A song only their minds hear, 10,000 nights back to their life in Cuba. My mother's face should still be resting against his bare chest, like the moon resting on the sea. And the stars should still be turning around them. There should be nothing here I don't remember. My brother should still be 13, sneaking rum in the bathroom and sculpting naked women from sand. And I should still be 8 years old, dazzled by seashells and how many seconds I can hold my breath underwater. But I'm not. I'm 38, driving up Collier Boulevard, looking for the Golf Motel, for everything that should still be, but isn't. I want to blame the condos, their shadows for ruining the beach in my past. I want to chase the snowbirds away with their tacky McMansions and yachts. I want to turn the golf courses back into mangroves. I want to find the Golf Motel exactly as it was and pretend for just a moment that nothing I've lost is lost. Thank you.